Hi everyone, welcome to Healing Connection. We're a supporting light for better mental health. My name is Angela. I'm the founder and president of Healing Connection.
My name is Andy, and I'm a volunteer here at Healing Connection. I'm also a university student.
Today we have the privilege to have James Grantis with us for an exclusive interview to share his words of wisdom. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce James to everyone. James serves as the vice president and co-founder at Hosper Mortgage. James has specialized in the mortgage industry since 2015 and has arranged the funding of over 3,500 private mortgage investments. James leads the investment service team responsible for offering, organizing, and reporting investments to Hosper's investor network. He also sits on the investment board. James has volunteered lots of his time teaching youth on financial literacy. We're so thrilled to have you here with us, James.
Hi, Angela. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
James, as a successful young professional, would you like to share some of your stories you had, might be your turning points in life?
Sure. I guess I'd start by how I got into the position that I'm in now. It certainly benefited from a couple lucky breaks along the way. So thanks for my bio there, as I'm working as basically a lead in the investment side of a mortgage business. So we raise money from investors that we then use to provide other people in Ontario with non-bank mortgages. And the story of how I got into this role is actually by luck. I had two falls along the way. The first was after university, I studied business and economics and finance, and I was working at TD Bank in commercial banking. And just through my job and working at TD, one of my clients was an entrepreneurial woman. She had businesses in Beijing and businesses in Toronto, and we just built a professional relationship while I worked as her banker. And then from there, that relationship grew to the point where she, offered me an opportunity to leave the bank and work with her in the industry. And then so from there, that's how I kind of fell backwards into the mortgage industry and arranging private mortgage loans, which is a little bit different, very different than what I was doing at the bank. And then I just continued to work hard in building that business. And as that business changed and as that individual moved back to China full time, I was lucky again to meet more individuals that were here, 3 other individuals that are here in Toronto, working in the mortgage business in Toronto full time. And the lucky break number 2 was meeting them when I did, and having taking the chance to partner with them when I did. And that those were the folks that 5 years ago we started Hosper, and now it's grown a bit, and we now have a strong team, about 18 people on the team, and we've been able to grow the number of clients that we work with. So I guess the lessons learned and those turning points were not so much decisions as lucky opportunities that I had. I do feel like I did create, or was fortunate to have those opportunities because of a few things in my life, which mostly was work ethic. I think that it's impossible to just will a lucky break, or to just like wish for that and have it happen. But there's lots of things that people can do to create the opportunity where all they need now is the lucky break. And it's very easy for me to say this in hindsight, but I do when I look back on it. I always felt like I really tried to give my best effort, which was when I worked at TD, which gave me the opportunity to meet Cindy, who I worked with, and then from there gave me the opportunity to work hard to then meet the folks that I end up being partners with. And I do have one other kind of comment about the sort of turning point that I actually have a vivid recollection of, and this is before I graduated university. I was a co-op student for TD, where I ended up working out of school. But during one particular week, I can't remember what had happened. I just remember it was not a great week. I either didn't perform very well or I didn't work very hard. I just remember going home on the train kind of early on a Friday and thinking to myself, I'm pretty kind of disappointed in myself from the week that I had. I probably made a mistake or something, and boss showed me where I made the mistake. And I remember thinking like, okay, I could either just kind of resign and kind of coast the last couple months of my internship, my co-op, and kind of just move on because it's a short-term thing, or I could just kind of come back the next week, work doubly hard, kind of try to make up for my mistake, try to really impress my boss, who to say, hey, yes, I made a mistake, but let me work through that. And I think that I chose the latter option, and that ended up building a really strong relationship with that boss, who was then the person to hire me out of school. So that's one decision I think that I remember, where I really kind of think of that as like almost a turning point, when I just chose to work, kind of to acknowledge my mistake and work hard instead of kind of give up and kind of wait for my next job.
Oh, wow. So you were not afraid of admitting you were wrong?
No, and I think that that is a huge skill. I think I've had to learn that it's okay to be wrong. I think I try to instill that in the people that I work with. It is very okay to be wrong because nobody is flawless. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's very normal. It's better to admit your mistake and resolve it than to pretend that mistake never happened and hope that no one finds out. I think that's what I learned from that moment and that experience in that co-op.
Oh, that's amazing. So your boss that time really got impressed by your honesty then?
I don't even remember exactly, like the fact that I don't even remember what the particular mistake was is kind of interesting. What I do just remember is the feeling like I just didn't do a good job. I didn't perform up to my level that I hold myself to, and I could just let this continue and I could kind of coast the rest of the way, or I could try to make up for that. And then I think I remember thinking of that, and I guess I remember choosing that I'm going to choose to work harder, and then I don't remember how that translated to, but at the end of the day, we have a great relationship, and the boss at that time, E-Man, he's, to this day, I still consider him a mentor. That's just an interesting memory that's really stuck with me now, almost 10 years later.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, James. Those definitely, it takes a lot of courage to admit that you're at fault. And I just have a question for most of the young people in this generation. Recently, more people are worrying about their finances, especially people around my age, and how with the cost of living going up, many young adults are kind of worried that they won't be able to afford to live independently. So what advice would you like to give to people in my generation to help manage their finances better?
Yeah, definitely. That's a super relevant issue these days. I think that the most simple advice is really just to understand your financial situation, and don't pretend it doesn't exist, and don't, even if it's difficult, really like getting involved with your finances is extremely important for everybody. And specific, it's just making sure that you're spending less than you're making. So whatever you're making, just as long as you're spending, even if at the end of the week that means you're saving $20, or at the end of the month you're saving $50. Again, the important point as a young person is not, you're not in your highest earning years. Young people are starting their career. They're not expected to make the most money right out of the gate. The important thing as a younger person is the habits that you'll build and like the principles that should remain for the rest of your life. So the principle of spending less than you make will exist forever. As you grow in your career and as you make more money, then you'll be able to, I suppose, have more luxuries and do more things. And that's something that I think that's something that I really like had ingrained in me from my parents and my mother. And I was very personally, when I was in university, I was extremely frugal, and I think that just kind of really conditioned me very well. So like that's just one thing I guess I would try to impart on anybody that's asking, is just really obviously spending less than you make is an easy thing to say. It's a lot harder to do. So the second piece of that is not being afraid of looking at the numbers. And, it's very easy for someone to say, oh, just spend less than you make. But the secret there is to really understand, where your money is coming in and where it's going. So for myself, something that I've been doing, back since I was, in second year Andy, actually since I was in first year university, every month I had a spreadsheet where I keep track of all the money coming in and all the money going out. And so while I didn't have like a really specific budget where I had to only spend X, it was just simply like knowing where the money was coming from and where the money was going was super empowering for me. And then, because I'm a saver by nature and because I invest for my work, I can see the benefit. The more I can squirrel away and save, the more I can invest. And the more I can invest, the more my money can work for me, instead of me having to earn primary income working. So I guess to bring it down to 2 points, the spend less than you make is one that everybody knows. But the second part that I'm trying to instill is like, it's really, really important. The more you actually know the numbers and don't shy away from them, the better success you'll have at that first point.
Thank you, James. Those are great advice. Yeah, that's great. Definitely more and more people will like to manage their finance better with all the gas price, like close to $2 almost. And so I have a question for you. So Healing Connection is currently running a youth peer support mentorship program. And one thing we discovered is that lots of youth that we're working with, they're trying to find their purpose in life. So what would you be your words of wisdom you like to share with some young adults when they feel lost in life?
I was admittedly very lucky, finding something to do that I was passionate about. I think that the most universal advice would just be to try things. I think that it's really hard to find a passion without, exploring yourself, exploring what's out there, trying a lot of things, and really giving it, your best effort. Kind of to tie it back to that story that I mentioned about, just kind of feeling like I kind of let myself down. I didn't perform very well. It is an easy temptation to say, I'll find something new. I'll just give up on this and I'll try something new. And I feel like, that potentially creates dead ends on something that could be your passion. It's really hard to, find your first job and just feel passionate about it right away. My very first job, I guess my first real professional job, was working at Subway restaurant, making sandwiches. And I would definitely not say that I'm someone that's passionate about making sandwiches. But when I do think back on that job now, as different as mortgages and sandwiches are, I think like that job actually helped me find like what I like to do. For example, like I liked working the till more than I liked cleaning the back, or more than I liked actually making the food. So like that sort of pointed me in a direction, and I kind of always knew I was more interested in that side of things too. I guess the point I'm trying to make, and really the advice, if I try to call it advice, is just to really try things, but you have to give yourself enough time on the things that you're trying to really figure out, is this something that resonates with me? It would be very easy just to try things for a month and then say, I didn't get that, because after a month you probably haven't scratched the surface. So I guess to kind of try to distill that down to some advice, try a lot of things, make sure the things you are trying, you're giving your full best effort, and then give it enough time to determine if this is for you. And it's very, very okay if you try something for a year and it's not for you. Like, especially as I'm thinking about a younger audience, university age folks. I'll give a brief example. One of my very best friends, will be the best man at my wedding. Very smart person in business school. Went to business school with him. He worked in a very successful job out of business school. Large consumer goods company. A couple years later, he decided he wants to be a doctor. total 180. Now he's working on being an emergency, medical doctor. So the things that you do right away, don't have to be the rest of your life. And so don't be afraid to try things, and then don't be afraid after you've given a full effort to try something new. So that's what I would say.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great. Thank you so much, James.
No problem.
Healing Connection is a registered charitable organization across Canada. Our goal is to build a resilient community together. We offer free community-based programs such as Healing Connection workshops. Most of our works are done by volunteers. Most of our fundings come from donations. If you feel benefited from any of our free resources, we would love to have your support by going to our website to donate.
If you haven't followed us or subscribed yet, you can do so by clicking on our website, www.healingconnectionhc.com.
Thank you so much, James.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for thinking of me. I enjoyed doing this with you.
Thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Bye for
Bye
now.
for now.